Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Ward 5 and Ward 6 Concord City Council forums for 2025. I am Tony Chinello, the local senior editor for Concord, New Hampshire Patch, and we're here in Concord TV studios recording this on October 6th. Thank you again to the staff and volunteers here who have been making our dual partnership of trying to let people know about elections here in Concord during the past decade. We're grateful for your time as well as theirs. During this forum, we'll be hearing from 3 candidates vying for 2 city council seats in 2 separate wards. On November 4th, they'll be on the ballot for 2-year terms. Each candidate will be given about, well, let me rephrase that. Each candidate will be given about a minute and change opening closing statements because we had one candidate who decided not to show up. So they're going to get a little extra time. And then I will ask questions in between. From left to right, we have Stacy Brown, the current Ward 5 City Councilors. We have an empty seat where Alex Dellis should be sitting, who's not here. Aislinn Caleb is running in Ward 6, and Brenna Cahew Scully is also running in Ward 6. That's an open seat. Brenna, let's start with you, and we'll go this way. Minute and change to tell us about yourself and give us an opening statement.
Sure. Hi, I am Brenna Cahew Scully, and I am running for Concord City Council to make sure that Ward 6 families and businesses have the housing, jobs, and opportunities they need to thrive. I really love living in Concord and feel that Concord is a really compassionate community. My top priority is going to be addressing housing shortage because we make it easier to build. We'll make it easier for families and workers to afford to live here and grow here. I want to focus on strengthening the economy by supporting local businesses, attracting new ones, and expanding our tax base so we can invest in services that make Concord strong. I really care deeply about safe, connected neighborhoods, maintaining roads and sidewalks. It's kind of boring, I always say, but that's really important to me. Protecting our parks, I love each and every one of them, and really ensuring that our community stays vibrant and welcoming. I live here in Ward 6 with my husband, our 2 daughters. We go to all the neighborhood events, well, not all because there really are so many of them, but I love the trails, the library, and really everything that makes Concord special. And professionally, I work as the Director of Policy for the National Foundation for Women Legislators, and I'm the host of our podcast, Elected Women Across America, and I have spent the last 15 plus years working with elected women, talking about policy solutions, collaborating on different ideas across the aisle and across the country. And I really think I'm a great fit for the Concord City Council. If I'm elected, I will listen closely. I will respond directly. I have had such a great time knocking on as many doors as I possibly can so far, and I have so many more to go. I just want to meet all my neighbors and see what I can do to help them make their lives better. So I hope to earn your vote this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon. It's an honor to be here sharing about who I am and engaging in important topics about our city and its future. Thank you to Tony and to Concord TV for hosting us in the studio, and to those watching at home. If you're watching, I know you really care about what we have to say, so thank you for being an active citizen and tuning in. My name is Aislinn Caleb, and I am one of your 2 choices for the open Ward 6 City Council seat. I've lived on the border of downtown in the South End as a renter for the last 3.5 years or so, but I grew up just down the road in Henniker, where my family, all of whom are educators, still live today. I've worked in the field of education and nonprofits since graduating university nearly a decade ago, and then serving a year in AmeriCorps in Rochester, New Hampshire. But in the last year or so, I've chosen to take a step back from all of that, and now I make my living by waitressing, and I get to make a comfortable income by doing something that brings me joy. Maybe that's an unusual path, but I believe that the job of a city councilor is one of customer service. If elected, I hope to increase the accessibility of city government and bring more people to the table. Especially as we head into the new master plan, which will guide our city's growth and development in the coming years. I look forward to the next half hour or so discussing our most important issues. And thank you so much again for tuning in.
Thank you.
Hi, I want to also thank Tony and Concord TV for giving me this opportunity to let voters know a little bit more about me. And I want to thank fellow candidates for being here and showing up. My name is Stacey Brown, and I'm running for re-election to represent the people of Ward 5 on City Council. I'm a New Hampshire native and military veteran with experience as an English teacher, intelligence officer, analyst, and volunteer. I traveled the world serving our country and working in collaborative environments before returning to New Hampshire with my husband to raise our children in the beautiful city of Concord. I immersed myself in the Concord community, creating free and low-cost events that connected residents with the natural environment, each other, and experts in professional industries. As the Ward 5 City Councilor, I've continued to work to connect residents with resources while engaging them in the civic process and advocating on their behalf. I advocate for transparency and including residents in the decisions that impact them and our future. On the council, I've supported and adopted new ideas and solutions of my colleagues, from roadside cleanups to community meetings to monthly newsletters, and I look forward to continuing to serve you on Ward 5.
Excellent, thank you. You were early, Stacey. You get a gold star, thank you very much. Aislinn and Brenna, let's start with both of you, and please don't take this the wrong way. This first question is not an insult. It's not snark either. But because the community thanks you for running, and you're both on the ballot and you both came forward to run. And Ward 6 is one of the most transient areas of the city. At the same time, while there's no length of residency requirement to run for city council, both of you are relatively newer residents to the community. Why jump in running now, right away, before really kind of getting to know the town, how it works? I don't recall seeing either of you at public meetings before. I may have seen you out and about in other ways. And we'll start with Aislinn. We'll go with you, and then Brenna.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in the area. I grew up living my entire childhood in Henniker, and so I've been around Concord most of my life. Yes, I've only lived here for about 3.5 years. But I have seen Concord change and grow over the last 30 years of my life, and I absolutely love living here today. But I'll take a step back and actually I'll tell you why I'm living here. I was living out on the seacoast after my AmeriCorps term and working at Rochester Middle School. But during the pandemic, things changed for me financially, and the landlord sold the building I was living in. There was already a housing shortage, and I just simply could not afford to live in Dover anymore. So in a I guess a story not unfamiliar to many young people, I ended up moving back into my parents' house for a short while in Henniker. I was struggling to find a place to live, and it was through probably sheer luck and I guess a decent credit score and the landlord liking me, I got an apartment, the apartment I still live in today. And since moving in there, my quality of life has just increased dramatically. I have been around in the community. I go to city council meetings. I feel engaged. I feel like I live in a connected neighborhood, and that is something so special. And yes, maybe it's only been about 3.5 years, but in that time, I've learned a lot about this city, and I'm sure the same is true for Brenna. Just because we're new doesn't mean we don't know what's going on.
I think everybody's jaw dropped that Dover is more expensive than Concord now. But thank you for telling me that. And I'll just say too, as somebody who's probably about 40 years older than you, it was the same way 40 years ago. We all had to scurry home when something didn't go right. So you're in good company. Brandon, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll echo a similar sentiment in the sense that I have only been here 3 years. I guess we're lucky that we're going up against each other. Nobody else in our ward who's been here for more years wanted to run. But I'm here to stay. I'm here in Concord to stay. I bought a house. I'm locked in. My kids are in school. We are not moving anytime soon. My husband's job is based here. I do work remotely, so I have some flexibility, but I'm here for sure. And right when we moved to Concord, I felt a click, a fit. Like, I feel like Concord is the right place for me to be. I've always wanted to live in a city life. I always say I'm kind of a city girl. I love a walkable community. And I was previously living in West Hartford, Connecticut. It's a beautiful place, but not exactly my vibe. I don't know how to describe it other than just, it's just not quite the people I gel with. And when I didn't feel that way when I came to Concord. I felt like this is where I belong. I love my neighbors. I love the energy. I think the businesses downtown have been so welcoming. And I joined the Junior Service League right away and jumped into that because I'm just trying to make friends. I'm new to the city. And I've found a lot of connections through that way and just have been so impressed and surprised with the way the businesses in the district respond to community outreach and to that sort of thing. So why only 3 years? Yeah, I'm here to stay, and that's why. But if that answers your question.
Thank you. Stacey, you're seeking your third term on the council. It's clear that you enjoy the work.
I do.
However, you have encountered what some would politely be describing as difficulty working with others on the council sometimes, and some of your colleagues blame you for some of the more chaotic atmosphere in the meetings. Having said that, though, you seem to learn from things that you experience. Is term 3 going to be more of the similar type of situation in the previous 2, or are you going to try and shift gears and get some things done in the next term?
Well, I have gotten some things done since I've been a city councilor, and I see my role as a city councilor as representing Ward 5. So I wouldn't normally, everyone represents their own constituents. So just as my colleagues here are representing Ward 6, Ward 6 may not agree with some of the things that Ward 5 would. So I see myself as an elected representative. And I think the council that I came onto, there was very little turnover at that time. So they were used to working together in a certain way. And I came in looking to advocate for my constituents. And that's how I see my role. I do learn from my fellow colleagues. Councilor Foote has done roadside cleanups, which I've jumped in. I think that's fantastic. Councilor Horn has been great about getting the word out, so I'm learning from her. And Councilor Schlosser has been fantastic with community meetings. So I am learning from my colleagues, and I hope that they'll learn from me. I love to dig into data. I love to do research, and I share that with a lot of my colleagues. So I'm okay with us not always agreeing as long as it's respectful.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you a follow-up in a different way on a different subject, Stacey, and then I'll go to the other Ward 6 candidates. The Beaver Meadow Golf Course Clubhouse has been kind of, a lack of a better term, obsession of yours. You didn't support it. It was soundly approved. You and I have spoken offline. It is a recreation department facility and function. We own a golf course. Mm-hmm. Frankly, as somebody who's played golf there, and I think met you at the Junior Service League, I was trying to figure out where I remember I got invited to do that tournament, and it was a lot of fun, and I don't golf. I spend more time in the golf clubhouse than I do on the course, actually. But anyway, I'm not the only one who thinks that who just wonders about this with you, because you seem to insist there's some sort of conspiracy with the project, and there really isn't. And I'm wondering, this is going to sound stupid, but do you hate golfers? Do you hate golf courses? I mean, there has to be more. Right. There has to be more than there is than what you're doing.
Yep. Thank you for this question, because I do hear that from people who, why do you keep questioning? And I love data, I love looking into things, and I have constituents who golf, and they said, I can't get a tee time. So I would look into that. And when we were doing the city manager's evaluation, I was looking at our ordinances. What are our roles as city councilor? And actually, Beaver Meadow Golf Course and the operation and maintenance of it falls under general services, not Parks and Recreation, which I thought was curious. And if you look at our annual reports, it was moved under Parks and Recreation in 2011, and then it was moved under Finance in late 2018. If you read our annual reports, you will not see a mention of Beaver Meadow Golf Course since it's been under Finance in almost 9 years, well, since 2018. And I find that very curious, especially when taxpayers have been putting in $2.5 million for irrigation. And there is nothing available for people through Parks and Rec at the golf course. The New Hampshire Golf Association is doing, they're having tournaments. They're not paying to host tournaments there, but they're charging people. And I think if taxpayers pay for it, they should absolutely have a benefit. So I'm going to keep asking questions on behalf of my constituents.
Just to be clear, though, there's all kinds of other functions in the city that don't get charged. Many of the free events at Keach Park don't get charged, while the softball league that I've been a part of for more than a decade gets charged thousands of dollars. So there's all kinds of things that go on in the city that aren't necessarily there, but you seem to think that there's some there. What is the there?
Well,
take 30 seconds and tell us what the there is.
So the clubhouse came before the council in 2023, 10.3 million. I heard from everyone, this is too much. We can't, I don't want to pay for something that I'm not using. There was pushback. It was reintroduced in May. This new plan had no public input. It was introduced May 15th. We voted on it June 5th. So I feel like there should have been public input. There should have been public hearings. I feel the public should be involved in these major decisions, especially when it's a multi-million-dollar project.
And it still would have been approved.
But I think there should be public input, period.
All right. Aislinn, do you have any thoughts on the golf clubhouse?
I do. I do have thoughts on the Beaver Meadow Clubhouse. I appreciate Stacy's diligence into digging into information about the golf course. I really do. I've learned a lot by going to city council meetings and also attending the meeting before the vote where there was a public comment session that lasted super late into the evening. And I did speak at that public comment session, actually. I stayed until the end, and I didn't originally think I was going to say anything, but after listening to folks and, talk about all facets of, the clubhouse and the course and the snowmaking being for kids in our schools to do the skiing, that was super fascinating. I learned a lot. But at the end, I thought I should say my opinion. I'm not a golfer. Maybe that's obvious. I don't really have any feelings either way about golfers. I don't hate golfers, just to preface that. But I think the city spending $5.8 million on a golf course that consistently does not turn a profit, it feels a little fiscally irresponsible, especially without us being able to see any sort of business plan for it to eventually turn a profit. I mean, the thought is if you build the clubhouse, they will come. I'm not sure that is wise to do with our taxpayer dollars.
So the recreation department loses $2 million a year, and there is no similar type of situation. What would you do? You're going to be in the, one of you will be a counselor next year. You're going to be looking at budgets. And are you going to say, well, the rec department loses $2 million a year, maybe it shouldn't, because the golf course loses $250 or $400 or whatever?
No, Tony, no, definitely not. So in this campaign, I've talked about prioritizing community-focused investments. And the recreation department, yes, it loses money. But the benefit that all these programs in the recreation department provide to our citizens, to our children, families, elderly folks, even people like me. I go to the public pool. I don't have children. I go when it's hot. I can't afford a pool membership. I go there, and I absolutely love that it's no cost to residents. I think that these programs provide immeasurable benefit to people in terms of creating community and promoting, healthy living and providing opportunities for recreation. That's the recreation department. When you look at a golf course, though, it is pay to play, and we're talking it's around $50 for a tee time, which isn't a significant discount for residents when you look at what it costs for other golf courses in the area. Or you sign up to participate in a tournament. Golf is a relatively exclusive sport. It is, and I do appreciate Beaver Meadow utilizing the snow and snowmaking operations for kids to ski. I think that's fantastic, but outside of that, I don't really see a community benefit in the same way as recreation programs.
Sure. Brandon?
Yeah, so I see the golf course as an asset to the town, and I do question why it's not under the umbrella of the Parks and Recreation Department. At my first glance, when I was learning about this debate, I assumed it was. So that, I think, is a question, maybe, to the running of it, but I do think it's an asset. So I think that, and I know Everett Arena is also an aging facility that will probably need to have updates to it down the road. Not everyone ice skates. I think you can get into splitting hairs about who uses what. I think following the data is smart, figuring out usership of everything and how much we want to invest versus other entities makes sense to look at that. But it's an asset to the town because, or the city rather, because I mean, we own it. It does. I guess it doesn't turn a profit, so maybe we figure out how we can make it turn a profit, because golf course should make money in a way, but it should be subsidized for residents. So I guess my answer is that I see it as an asset of the town. I see it as maybe needing some stewardship by the council and by city managers to make sure that it's being utilized to its best capacity. But when you mentioned the Junior Service League tournament, that was a charity tournament. All the money raised there was then granted out to community local organizations. So it is being utilized to some degree. Could it be utilized better? Yes, I think maybe. But I'm definitely not opposed to it, because I just consider it an asset to the city at large.
Thank you. Let's talk about housing, which you've all been talking about, and is easily the biggest problem probably facing the city, other than the tax rate and the budget. But officials have been working on this problem. There are hundreds of units that have been built, with more to come. However, we have a problem where the affordable units have these strict compliance issues, 7 pages worth of information that you have to provide to get into an affordable unit, even if you've been responsible and saved your money, but don't earn a lot of money and can't afford the market rate. People people under 60, they have choices. They have a lot of choices. People in the 60 to 80, who are most of us in the city, don't have access to any of these units, and based on the median. But at the same time, can't afford the $2,500 to $3,000 monthly rents of all of the new market rate units, which they basically are supposed to be able to get into, and are even often told you don't make enough money, even though most of us would consider $80,000 a pretty good wage this year. What can you do, Brenna, if you are elected, to ensure that some of the units that the city has a role in creating get into the middle range people who don't have any options at all now?
That's a great question. And I actually haven't been super tapped into that particular niche question of how those sort of middle income earners can find housing. So I'm not totally sure. I'd have to do a little bit more research into what the city council role is in that. I think encouraging development of more housing across the city in general is going to help, because you just make more units available. I mean, I was just knocking on doors yesterday and was talking to someone who was telling me their story. I mean, it's a similar one. Everyone has a story, right? Like their landlord sold their apartment, their affordable rent was no longer there anymore, and they had to search high and low for the gem of apartment, the diamond in the rough, and they felt lucky enough to find that spot that they could afford. So I don't know how to make those diamonds in the rough more accessible to everyone. It shouldn't be a hunt for a gem, searching, frantically to find something that will work. So I don't know the exact solution, other than trying to encourage more and more housing to be developed, and not having any zoning preventions in that, encouraging people to do the sort of, I was just reading some housing resources through 603 Forward about incentivizing people to turn garages and sort of like the in-law suites apartments to have that sort of be built up. So those are long-term strategies. I don't know the answer to that exact question, though, I have to say. Okay,
thank you. Aislinn.
Okay. Actually, to that last point, Brenna, the legislation that was passed at the state level allowing ADUs, I'm looking forward to seeing how we can make use of that at the city level. I think that will address some of that missing middle. I know, perhaps intergenerational housing. Maybe you want to build on an extra part of your house for your aging parents, right? But I do agree, increasing the volume of housing is absolutely critical at this time. I mean, I'm a renter. Maybe I'll always be a renter. But even still, I feel deeply invested in my community, and I want to stay in the place that I currently live in for a long time. And I know people that have been able to come back to Concord, move to Concord, maybe they have family, friends here, because of these new affordable housing developments. There we go, that's the word I'm looking for. Like in our ward, the rail yard, those apartments have allowed people to live comfortably here, live and work here. Maybe you work in the service industry or in retail, you don't bring home a lot of money, but you want to live in the community that you work in, and now we have the rail yard. Fantastic, we need more of it, absolutely, but I am also a little bit in the same boat as Brenna, absolutely feel like I need to learn a little bit more about the needs of our older residents, maybe who don't qualify for certain elderly housing. But yeah, there's more for me to learn for sure, but increasing the volume and making use of the new ADUs law. So that's.
Excellent. Thank you. Stacy.
I don't think there's going to be any one solution, but I think being willing to talk with residents, talk with developers, and housing, it's not just we can build all these houses, 300 houses, and we're set. We have to look at the infrastructure. We have to look at the utilities. If somebody is downsizing, what needs do they have? Do they, want to be able to walk to downtown? Do they want to have a kind of a contained community like we have in Havenwood Heights? So those are the things that I think we should look at our existing footprint, look at our existing infrastructure and how we can make the most of that. We have a fantastic architect, John Chorlian in Ward 5, who's done amazing work with preserving the historical integrity of some of our most beautiful buildings. And that's creative and wonderful. And just, is it South State? Or the church that's on South State, where he's created little pockets of community areas in that building. I think we need to really look at that, because that ultimately creates a strong community. Looking at what infrastructure we have, the buildings we have, how we can repurpose them to serve our existing community.
Thank you. Aislinn, this question is for you, and I'll allow everybody to answer another question which is similar. You have said that, quote, the city needs to take some responsibility, unquote, for the homeless issue, and you support allowing an encampment to be constructed for homeless people. Some would say city taxpayers are already spending a lot of money to help the homeless, while the communities surrounding our city don't really do much of anything. Instead of having the city taxpayers pay more money to take care of the homeless, shouldn't you be advocating on what's best for the city, which is to get places like Bow, Loudoun, and maybe even Henniker to set aside land for a homeless campground?
Yeah, absolutely, Tony. So I feel very strongly on this issue, and I am quoted as saying that absolutely. I do believe a sanctioned encampment is one potential. The crisis, it is a crisis, it is an emergency. We have over 350 individuals who are unhoused at this time, and that's a conservative estimate. That's one piece of the puzzle, I think. And I wanted to be clear up front that that is something that I do support, although, I am not going to be elected to unilaterally make decisions, of course. If we're going to go in the direction of sanctioning an encampment, it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of thought, a lot of discussion with stakeholders. Where is the location? Is it close to services? I know some activists, folks with connections to the unhoused community, have suggested near the Friendly Kitchen, out of the way and close to their needs. But I'll offer you this: we are the capital city, and I believe that we set the tone for the state. And I have heard City councilors describe the issue of homelessness as one of optics. We don't want tourists driving up 93 and seeing, a dirty encampment under the exit 13, right? I believe it's not only compassionate and right to expedite solving this problem, but it benefits us as a whole. So to your point about working with other municipalities, I also do support that. I think, winter is coming, for example. There's no permanent warming shelter. And when we look at, Dover, Somersworth, Rochester, that Tri-City area teamed up together to build a warming shelter in that area. And I think that is another great avenue for tackling this crisis. Absolutely.
Sure. Yes or no, would you have voted to support closing Healy Park then?
Healy Park, $205,000 of taxpayer money that we are using.
4 shootings, a machete attack, who knows what else that didn't get reported by me.
No.
People drowning because they're in the floodplain. Or people losing their materials and potentially drowning because they're in the floodplain, having to be rescued. 4 years. Would you have voted for that?
All right.
I'll take that as undecided.
No, it's not undecided, actually. So it's a complicated issue. You talk about these materials that were lost. These are the lives of people, and I understand there was violence and danger and tragic situations. But I look at the $205,000, and that's money we're using not to help, but to work against this community. And I think that Healy Park did need to be closed, but the way in which that was done was not right.
Okay. And it was also underneath the Water Street Bridge, which was an absolute disaster as well.
Okay.
Brenna, same question to you. Do you support building a encampment, homeless campground, whatever you want to call it? And or also, will you be advocating for other communities to do more?
I would advocate for other communities to do more, but I would not support an city-sanctioned encampment. I don't think that's a wise solution. I think it encourages permanence in a way that doesn't help people get into homes, which is the ideal solution to end homelessness, right, is homes. So we talked a little bit about affordability, and I think that's the long-term solution. But I also think, I don't want to undercut Concord. Maybe, yes, we had that park that was cleared out, and I think it maybe wasn't done in the most compassionate way, right? We do want to respect people and their belongings. I have absolute respect for them. But you can't allow public spaces to be neglected for long periods of time and have violence be there. So I don't support that. I do think Concord has the Concord Coalition to End Homelessness. They're doing such a great job. I think having name by name knowledge of who each homeless person is or unhoused person is really important. I drive my kid to school every day, one to one school and one to the other school, and it's sad, right? Like, they see them every day and they say, what can we do for the homeless people? We have these little Ziploc bags that we give out because I don't want to teach my kids to just look away and ignore. But it is hard for some people, I think, in our community. When I knock on doors, that's what they're telling me too. It's a challenging thing to have to face every day, but it's obviously more challenging for the person living that life every day. So I never want to turn away. I always want to be compassionate and find a way to help people get into homes. But I don't think that an encampment is the right solution.
Okay. Yeah, real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I totally agree. Housing first, absolutely. But I think what do we do in the meantime? I mean, it's a very real situation. They have nowhere to sleep. What do we do to assist in the meantime? They live in fear when they go to sleep at night that, they may be tracked down by police, and then it is illegal to camp. Okay, that's a problem. But it is also illegal to dump trash in a private dumpster. Where are they supposed to leave trash? A sanctioned encampment would include potentially sanitation services, and I understand the conditions of an encampment are not ideal. They're dirty, they're gross, right? Like, nobody wants to live like that. They don't want to live in trash.
Sure. Let me just follow up real quick, and Stacey, I want to give you a chance to answer, but at the same time, if you do not have the wherewithal to keep the park, which is closed to the public, from having debris everywhere, or no needles, or no violence, and because that park was closed forever, for the longest period of time, to the general public, what's to keep them from doing that in the encampment? There isn't anything really. You're still going to end up. You still potentially. You could say. Okay, we're going to have porta potties. We're going to have running water. Okay, but they wouldn't take care of the mess they were already in, which led to the $205,000 to have to be spent to have a public area cleaned. A public area that, if I walked through that door, the fence with the swinging gate, I would technically be in violation of a criminal trespass law. Although my trespass lets me get away with a little bit more than most people. But, you're still in the same situation, right? Except that it's a bigger bill now. Now it's more than $205,000. It's $500,000 a year. And then it's social workers. And then it's, at what point do we go, hey, when I couldn't live in Brooklyn anymore, I had to move. When I couldn't live inside 495, never mind 128, when I moved to Boston, I had to move. At some point, you have to find a cheaper place, or you have to have the capacity to make that decision, right?
To what you said, we don't know because we haven't tried. We have not tried. We have tried spending $205,000 to clear this park. We don't know that sanctioning an encampment or piloting even just for a temporary period of time, seeing how things go, working with experts to figure out how we can, in a cost-effective way, just legalize a space for them to be able to sleep at night. And I don't know how, I'm not going to convince you that it's going to be perfect because I don't know. I don't have the answers, but I do think it is worth it to take a small step and try.
Sure. And I won't say that it won't work either.
Okay.
Stacy.
So
I wanted to just ask, let me just,
Okay.
up or down, you voted for the Healy Park
Yes.
money. So
Yeah.
we know where you stand on it.
Right. It needed to be cleaned up, but that was a reactive vote. And if we're going to spend money, if we're going to decide to spend money to address the homeless situation, I would rather be proactive. And other communities have achieved functional zero homelessness, where being unhoused is brief and rare. And to do that, you have to know who your people are. You have to, first of all, prioritize it. And really, as a council, it's one of our priorities, but it's not really we had assigned 100 or 205,000, but really make it a priority. Really drill down and find out who these people are, because we're talking about, all these people are going to be swept into a camp. That might not work for everybody. If we can get to know each person, and what we've learned is a lot of these people are Concord residents. They grew up here, they've lived around here, they have connections here. Finding out what works for them. In Ward 5, the coalition has a house, and it was a little tough in the neighborhood because it is tough to go from being unhoused to suddenly being in a house. You lose your community. So I think understanding that experience, the unhoused experience, is really important, and that's part of prioritizing this issue. So I think we have to do that, and also we cannot keep increasing our property taxes because it's only going to get worse. We have a lot of people. This revaluation is going to increase the tax bill for our manufactured homeowners and our condo homeowners. And it's going to be, and we have other services, utilities, water, wastewater, that's increasing. So we need to really come together to support each other.
I'm just going to push back a little bit. So actually the data is that it's generalization, and it's also, we had a start grant person who audited all of the homeless people in 2020. Only a small fraction of them were actually families living in cars. Most of them are not from here, and I can tell that by doing research on their criminal records. And that tends to be about anywhere from half or more of the range. It's always been between about 90 and 500 people over the years. It fluctuates. But most of them are not from here. They may be from New Hampshire, or they may be from New England, but they're actually not from Concord, most of them.
Okay.
Anyway, but just to say, give you 30 seconds to, and then I'm going to give you a new question, but But what about getting the other communities to do something?
Sure, absolutely. Reaching out to them, seeing what their capacity is. Yeah, I am all about exploring all the options.
Cool, thank you. Stacy, so you voted for, this last year, you voted for the highest city property tax rate increase in recent memory. It's been decades. I think it's been, let's see, 18 years that Mayor Boulay was on the council or mayor, and
16.
I think it was less than 3% all of those years. Oh, I don't remember his bragging line. I'm sorry, Jim, I don't remember it. But it's been decades. While also, as part of the council, you spent 6 hours discussing how to lower the rate by 1%. If reelected, what would you do differently to streamline this process next time?
Yes, awesome question. So yes, I was on the council when we spent hours talking about that little 1%, and I did bring forward other suggestions that we could bring it down further. And the reason that this rate is so high is that we are spending more on the capital projects, capital budget than we ever have before. 14.3 million is being spent for the capital projects, and 42% of that is going to the golf course.
That's not accurate.
It is.
That's not accurate. That money is spread over 20 years. That's not this year's.
If you look at
this year's, wait, Stacy, that's not accurate. This year's capital budget is not $14 million for 1 year.
For what we are bonding. For what we are borrowing.
Right, but that's spread out over periods of time on each different bonding item.
If you look at all the capital projects, the number one project that we are bonding is going to be $6 million for the golf course.
Yes, over a period of how many years?
20.
Okay.
20.
And how much is that every year to the taxpayer?
And that's going to increase the tax rate more than 7%. That's the debt. That's going to increase our debt. So what I propose that we do is that we have a capital improvement project committee. And we include the school district in this, and we include residents, and we look at all the capital projects, because it's crazy that the school district, they had a sole source contract for HVAC for $15 million, and nobody batted an eyelash over that. So that's, yes, that, so
But you're not on the school board.
No, I'm not.
And
but that's still coming out from taxpayers' pockets. So we need to make sure that we are not overtaxing our residents, that we are we're arranging the capital projects in such a way that we don't have these massive spikes. We're looking at Memorial Field, $155 million middle school, police station, all these things, and residents are just feeling incredibly overwhelmed. So we need to work together to prioritize our projects.
Just for 15 seconds, the HVAC thing was lumped together into other things. There was a public hearing about it. There was an open process. There was an RFP.
It
was sole
source.
It was not. It was.
Yes, it was.
I have the email. It's in the RFP. It gets sent out to all of us.
It absolutely
and they did.
was
a
sole source.
They had a public hearing about it, and then they
had a public hearing for the bond, not for the bid, not for the project.
They had an RFP for it. It was bidded out, and then they added on one more thing. Oh, by the way, there's a leak on broken ground that needs to be fixed, and they lumped it in. There wasn't there. They had already had the contract.
No.
Yes, they did.
They put out the bond.
You're not on the school
bid.
board, Stacy.
Oh, I know,
okay.
But I followed it because it's coming out of taxpayer dollars, and I feel responsible for how our debt is increasing.
Thank you, Aislinn. Budget cycle next year.
Yeah.
Same question.
Absolutely. Okay, so first, you mentioned that the tax rate did not increase significantly under Mayor Boulay.
So over the past 20 years or so, it's been 3% or less. This year it's 5%. So it's the first time it's over the 3%.
Absolutely.
So in a couple of those years, it was 0 or 1.
Sure.
Just for the...
So that leads me to believe that this sudden influx of capital improvement projects may be in part because certain improvements were maybe pushed down the line in order to not raise taxes, and we're paying for it now. So I think that may be part of it. And listen, I know the struggles of a working class person because I am one. And I do not want to be elected to this council and just spend. I do see some of these projects, though, as down the road having a benefit in that they will indirectly help expand our tax base. So when you look at the Hall Street wastewater treatment plant, okay, $31 million to bring that up to what we need. It's at capacity now, and we're going to be, increasing our population, increasing the number of housing units. So we need that plant. We need to pay for that plant so we don't get sued by the EPA, so we can grow our tax base. And so these capital improvement projects, improving Memorial Field, like that's field is going to be a huge draw. I mean, that's just maybe one of many reasons families may choose to move to Concord if there's available housing. So I think these things are all tied, but I do want to be clear that, I'm not in this to raise people's property taxes. Even as a renter, I understand I indirectly pay into these taxes, and I don't want rents to go up. I don't want people to struggle.
Thank you. Brennan, what would you do differently after watching what the council did to keep the tax rate at a reasonable amount?
What would I do differently?
Would you spend 6 hours debating 1%?
I probably would, yeah. I mean, 1% is not nothing. If it was a 4% increase.
Only 1%. I missed my, sorry.
I would. I mean, I think it's time. I'll spend as many hours as it takes to try and keep the taxes as low as possible without feeling the hurt to our city in general. I mean, I think we have an aging infrastructure that just is life. When you talk about the wastewater facility, of course it needs to be updated. I don't skimp on my own plumbing, there's certain things that just make that analogy for sure. I don't want to spend $10,000 if some of my pipes are breaking, but you just have to bite the bullet and do it sometimes. And I feel the same way about the wastewater facility. So I do think we have to look very critically about what are the needs for the community and what are the wants, right? So we have to make sure we are operating within that. I agree that I know the city council doesn't manage the school budget, but we need, as a city council, I think, to be aware of the impact that Runlet is going to have on our taxpayers as well. So keep that in mind when we're prioritizing projects. I think that has to be a top one, and we have to keep that in mind in our prioritization. So I don't know what I would do differently, except for I would probably be there fighting it out to try and save as much money as we could too. And I don't know how else to say that.
And just as an editorial note, so the project for the middle school is $155.7 million, but with the interest, it's $250 million, anywhere between $220 million and $284 million. So even the school board can't tell you the right figures. You can have 30 seconds real quick. Aislinn, I saw you.
Yes. Thank you, Tony.
Yep.
So that is a huge price tag on Runlet. And I do think that the price that we pay for pushing off improvement projects for, potentially maybe years ago there were opportunities to improve the school building at Runlet, to make some repairs, to maybe prevent this in the future. So, when I answered that question in the chamber survey about, do I support a tax cap, my answer being no. It is because that can lead to pushing off essential repairs and essential things, especially that will fall on our schools. I worked in Rochester. I was there when they had to override that tax cap, and I was there when city officials said it was because we pushed off improvements and projects and repairs for so long.
And one of the reasons that the taxes went up 5% was the city councilors gave raises to almost every city department, every city employee, and then had no way to finance the increase of all of the increased raises. They got bonuses and then they got raises, and they didn't have the money to budget in the next cycle, which is one of the reasons too. Okay, real quick, Brenda, let's go to you. Please share the voters 3 ideas on what you would do to expand the tax base and make it fast.
Okay. I feel like I've just been put on the spot.
That's
okay. Right. How to expand the tax base? Well, number one, I want to make sure there are no zoning barriers to any type of expansion. So I know there was a housing development in Pennacook that was blocked. I'm still not exactly sure why, but I don't want to see that happening. I think continuing to stay on the track of encouraging all these massive events in Concord, I think are fantastic. So however, as a councilor, I can do that, I would do tenfold and more. And those are the 2 I can think of.
You gave me 2. Aislinn, go.
Absolutely. So First of all, we're entering this new master plan period. This is an opportunity to look at our zoning and to see, where we can rezone, where we can, put up mixed-use developments, single-family homes, multifamily homes, all of that. Huge opportunity for us, and we need to be bringing the public into this process in a really big way. Second, we need Concord to be attractive to developers and to businesses. That knowledge right there is not exactly my strength, but I'm looking forward to learning more about how we can do that. And then third, I think just generally Concord needs to be leaning into its strengths. So we're a burgeoning arts community, arts and culture, like festivals, public art, things like that. And one of the things that has been on my mind is perhaps we need to look into having an arts commission, really lean into this growing identity of ours to bring people in as, to make us an attractive place to live.
Stacey, I'm sure you have 5, right?
I love that idea. And part of having good ideas is listening to other people, leaning into our residents, because we are attracting so many wonderful people who, maybe just moved here, maybe have lived here 3 years. And when we have people, we are attracting a lot of amenity migrants. And this is something that the New Hampshire Fiscal Policy Institute just
Three
stated.
ideas.
All right, so let's invest in our residents. I love this investing in our art and really connecting to the Northern Rail Trail and safe transportation, so you don't have to have a car. Safe multimodal transportation alternatives.
Thank you. All right, we got about 1 minute before closing statements. Let's see if we can get this quick. Automated trash pickup is scheduled to begin next year. Some have suggested ending the purple bag tax and just going back to where solid waste was part of the property taxes. In 10 seconds, 15 seconds, where do you stand?
No, I don't want to push it back onto taxes. I think people can take ownership. We need to educate them about all the different ways that they can dispose of their garbage.
Excellent, thank you. Aislinn.
Yeah, absolutely. The math doesn't lie. Getting rid of purple bags, our volume of trash will increase by at least 40%, and pulling out of the general fund will increase taxes for individuals by about 4%. So I do not necessarily support ending the purple bag program. It's complicated. I definitely recommend talking to the solid waste department if you have questions. It's fascinating stuff.
It is actually. Brenna, real quick.
Yep, I'm in agreement. I would like to see better distribution of the purple bags so that they're at more places. I hate when you go to CVS and they're not there and you can't find them. I think people have legitimate complaints about the quality of the purple bags sometimes. I'd like to make sure we look into that with our who we partner with there. But I'm very excited about the automated trash barrels, and I know everyone in Ward 6 is, because our trash gets blown over all the time, strewn about. I thought we had a littering problem in our community, but I think it was just the trash being blown around. So we're very excited for that, but I'm not opposed to the purple bags because I do think they lower trash production and incentivize recycling. So,
thank you. So we're going to go to closing statements. I'm going to give each of the candidates a minute and a half because we have time and Alex didn't show up. Stacey, closing statement.
Okay, thank you. I love being a city councilor. I'm looking forward to my 3rd term in serving you, and that is exactly how I see it. I see it as serving constituents, getting to know you. I like to be accessible. I like to take the sidewalk. I like to bike. During this campaign season, I'll be out covering every street, either on foot or by bike, so I can get to know you. And if I don't get to talk to you, I can see where you live, what your sidewalk condition is like, what your road is like. But please reach out to me. You can reach out to me at Stacey, S-T-A-C-E-Y, 4, Concord, @gmail.com. You can look at my website to see everything that I have done for the last 2 years. I put out a newsletter. On my website is stacey4concord.com. The latest is my newsletter, and if you'd like to receive it and see what I'm doing for you, I would be happy to do that. Please, I humbly ask for your vote on November 4th at the Krista McAuliffe School.
And you get to read what Stacey's reading about, which is always interesting. Aislinn, 1 minute, minute and a half.
All right, so thank you, Stacey, for being here, and Brenna for engaging in this debate with me, and thank you, Tony, for also engaging in a little bit of debate with me. Again, my name is Aislinn Caleb, and I am one of your 2 choices for this city council seat. I'm running because I really love this city, and I would like to be a part of helping do what's best for us as we grow. But I don't presume to know all the answers. Certainly not. I do see this as a customer service job, and if I'm elected to have a seat at that table, that's not my seat, that's our seat. I will work hard to bring more people into the process, to deliver information to constituents in an accessible and understandable way, and to solicit feedback and concerns and talk to folks, even, of course, including people who may not share my core values and my opinions on things. I have opinions, but again, I don't know it all, and I'm looking forward to learning. And I'm looking forward particularly to knocking doors in the coming weeks and hearing from residents directly. So the most important thing, I think, is for me to have all of the information I need from constituents, from department heads, from other city councilors to be able to represent you accurately. So please reach out if you would like to chat. My email is on my website, aislingforconcord.com. That's the number 4. I'm having an event on Thursday open to folks, so check that out. Finally, one last thing. Ward 6 has been seriously underengaged for some time. So, Brenna here can help me achieve my secondary goal, which is to get more than 10% voter turnout, more than 400 people at that poll on November 4th. And, I hope that happens. I really do. So thanks again, everyone. This was great.
Brenna.
Great. Thank you again. And thank you all for having me. I feel really lucky to be here. I'm asking for your vote. Again, my name is Brenna Kehoe Scully, and I'm running for the city council seat because I really believe that Concord's best days are ahead. I think Ward 6 deserves a strong voice to help shape that future, and I've been really having such a fun time knocking on doors, meeting my neighbors. I love it. I'm a social person. I love to be contacted, called, emailed at any time of the day. I want to hear what's going on with you. I want to know what's happening in your life and how I can help make it better. I really, really love this community. I love Concord, and I think Ward 6 neighborhood are the best. I think we have the best walkability, and I think it's such a wonderful place to live. I love all our small businesses, and I want to ensure that Concord remains a place where families can just afford to live, work, and grow. I know that means tackling our housing shortage, supporting these local businesses, and investing in services that make our city strong. I want to bring to the council what I bring to my work every day. I'm sort of known for my positivity. My nickname in life has always been Happy Brenna. I have this kind of energy that I want to bring to the council. I'm known for bringing people together, working across the aisle, and fostering a spirit of positive collaboration. So I really think I have a lot to offer the city council and would love the chance to show it. I'm proud to call Ward 6 home, and I would be honored to earn your vote and represent you. So if you're listening from Ward 6, check me out. I am at Brenna for Concord, FOR, switching it up from the fours over there. So Brenna, FOR, Concord. You can find me on Facebook, and you can email me directly. I would love to hear from you. So thank you for your time, and I hope for your vote November 4th. Let's have a great turnout.
Those are your candidates running in Ward 5 and Ward 6, or I should say those are your candidates who decided to show up in 2025. Voters go to the polls from 7 o'clock in the morning until 7 o'clock at night at 10 different locations. Go to the Elections tab on the city's website, which is concordnh.gov for more information. Patch will have the voter guide up the week before the election and other information as well. I'm Tony Shinella. Thank you again to Concord TV, and we'll see you next time.